Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. Classic Sixers. Classic Sixers. Joel Embiid makes his regular season debut. Talks a big game about potentially playing in the back-to-back and gets ruled out 6-7 hours before tip-off. I was going to wait until I witnessed the game against Cleveland. Now it's irrelevant. No Paul George, which we'll get to. No Maxey with his injury. And no Joel Embiid. Look, I'm enjoying Jared McCain like the rest of you. That kid is no joke. Don't let the painted fingernails and the TikTok dances fool you. He's a killer on the damn floor, and I truly am enjoying watching him gain experience. So my eyes will be glued. But I truly don't care the way that I should care about facing a 12-0 Cleveland team in front of your home crowd looking to move forward as a group. They're 2-8. Embiid shot 2 of 11 from the field. And I understand that Joel was never going to be in game shape the moment he took the court for the first time. But hear me out. Did that look like someone who was ramping up to be best prepared for his first game? There were always going to be signs of fatigue. There was always going to be unfortunate possessions offensively where he's not comfortable yet and he's not smooth getting to his certain spots. That's not what I'm talking about. When I watched that game, it didn't look to me like there was a ramp-up period. And if there is, they're half-assing it. Joel never looks good when he gets on the floor after missing a serious amount of time. And is that just a part of who Joel Embiid is and a part of the Joel Embiid experience? Or maybe they should look deeper within and see if there's a correlation on what they do to, quote, ramp him up and why he looks like a horrendous garbage basketball player whenever it's his time again to be out there with this team. The game against the Knicks, it was close-ish until one of the worst calls in NBA history occurred. When you go to the replay booth and you somehow call a foul on Kelly Oubre when Karl Anthony Towns should have picked up his fourth and he smacked both Oubre and Embiid in the face. Knicks get the ball, McBride hits a three, the Knicks go on this run, and the Sixers can't stop the bleeding. Part of me gets upset because fourth quarters all feel the same to me. Whenever I'm watching Sixers hoops and the fourth quarter rolls around and it's close, it doesn't really put a ton of confidence in me. And while I think the referees really botched that foul call, and that is game-changing type of stuff, Cat picking up his fourth compared to a massive swing and possession for the Knicks, and that resulting in a three, you got to realize that things are going to go against you with 8 minutes to go, 7 minutes to go. And if you let that destroy you, and if you let the game slip away, you got to have stones. You got to have toughness. You got to have the ability to stop the bleeding the next possession and get yourself back on track. It's a game of run. Sometimes you're going to get punched with a few minutes to go. You're going to get knocked out. You're going to get the hell back up and do something about it. And the makeup of this team for a while now has been they get knocked out. They don't have the response. So it just reflects back to pretty much Sixers basketball and the Joel Embiid experience for a while now. And it's hard to run away from those similar feelings that I feel every time we are in a close game in the fourth quarter. But I almost want to walk through the timeline with you of what transpired last night because there was so much BS. Surprise, surprise, the Sixers are filled with bullshit. But there was so much BS from Nick Nurse, from Joel, and it just doesn't sit right with me because it's almost as if they have no respect for the fans. They really don't give a damn about us, and they're playing their own little game internally, and it's disappointing. It's disappointing to treat us the way that they treat us. So, I start with Embiid playing the game. That was dreadful. That was dreadful. It didn't look to me like Joel Embiid did everything in his power to be the best Joel Embiid he possibly could be for his debut. He didn't look ramped up. He didn't look like, he was conditioned in a way that I thought is respectful for your first game. No one's expecting you to be in the same game shape game 1 as you are game 51. But I do expect some version of competence. And that looked all over the place. Couldn't get to his spots on the floor, getting pushed around. I thought defensively at times he was asked to do certain things, and I liked what I saw in doses, in moments. But offensively speaking, it was a legitimate nightmare. And he never, ever, ever looked to be that dominant force of good luck stopping me. Whatever the Knicks wanted to do to force him to be uncomfortable, they essentially knocked it out of the park on all of his possessions outside of a couple of field goals. But, he was 0 from the field for a long-ass time, only scoring 8 points all from the free throw line. Dude. Come on, man. And to be fair, you know the history between you, Karl Anthony Towns, another big man in this league. I would think that would help you rise to the occasion, whereas if your first game was against some scrub team that didn't have anybody at the 5 that you feel is reasonable to even, be talked about, I could understand maybe sleepwalking, expecting you to just cook them or fry them. You got to be mentally engaged. You got to be ready to go. You should eat him alive. And that switch, that killer switch, it wasn't flipped. And it could be as simple as it was never supposed to be flipped based off of the way the organization wants to handle this. Don't worry about the win. This isn't about getting the cat. This isn't about dropping X amount of points. This is just about you running up and down the floor at a pace that you can't duplicate when you are with some of the coaching staff or when you're with some of the guys that don't get a lot of minutes. You can't really replicate that. So this is a way for you to just focus on running up and down and feeling good with the knee. We truly do not give one damn about the outcome. And the fact that I'm even questioning if that's the way they approached it is super disappointing. But from the eyes, that's what it looked like to me watching at home. So then Nick postgame, after the actual outcome. Nick postgame, here's step 2 of it all. He wasn't ruled out for Cleveland. Huh. Why? That was my first question to myself. Why? And I had 3 hypotheticals. Number 1, are they that desperate? Are they looking at the standings, seeing where they fall? They're 2-8. Now, full disclosure, the Eastern Conference, it's Cleveland, it's Milwaukee, and then the rest of the teams, the Orlandos of the world, the Brooklyn Nets of the world, those type of teams are all flirting around 500. So it's not ridiculous to get right back in there with a certain run, okay? It's not as if the first 6 teams in the Eastern Conference are running away with this puppy and they have monster separation. You're still within crazy striking distance with so much basketball left. I can't imagine them hitting a full-on panic button. But the number one reason why, and keep in mind, at this particular time, we did not see him or Paul George ruled out. So you wondered, are they really going to throw him back out there after all the noise that Joel Embiid created himself by saying, I'm not going to be playing back-to-backs again for my career? He most recently just said that, and now the head coach on the first attempt of a back-to-back is saying he's not ruled out. And why? Why would that be the case? Are they feeling pressure with the 2-8 start? Are they desperate? That was thought number one. Thought number two, as much as you want to say a $100,000 fine isn't a big deal to someone like Joshua Harris, who owns 3 professional sports teams in America, in the Devils, the Commanders, and the Sixers, nobody wants to write a 6-digit check to the NBA for words, for just simply speaking wrong, for simply putting your own foot in your mouth. Was there some sort of play just with, this is how we're going to handle it, this is what we're going to say, we know we can't get fined, we know we can't get hit, we know there can't be any sort of investigation if this is the way we handle it, so this is how we're going to do it. And that's coming from the up above. And number 3, they realized big time how out of shape he was, that they needed him to be conditioned more. And the only way for him to be conditioned more is to push through this fatigue and to push through him feeling out of shape. And, I'll never forget, once I stopped playing hockey, and it was the first time that I had to do something, whether it was on the treadmill or running, or whatever, just trying to keep my endurance up. And I'm like, holy hell. I experienced not in shape, out of breath for the first time. I've been out of shape hockey-wise. I haven't been out of shape out of the athletic world, right? Like, oh man, I feel like I am not going to make it. I feel like my body is truly going to collapse. Well, in some way, shape, or form, I guess this makes no sense because Embiid is an athlete, but I'm just saying, if he's feeling that beat down and that broken, maybe he realized, listen, I got to push through this thing, because if I am going to get to where I ultimately need to get to for this team to have a chance, I got to play in this back-to-back. So it was them realizing that whole ramp-up experience was nowhere close to harsh enough. Those were the 3 that I came up with. Then, and I didn't know which one I felt most about. Honestly, number 2, not being fined, is really at the time what I thought it would be. Then, things changed when Embiid talked to the media. Embiid said it was ultimately not his decision. He's going to want to push to play, but it comes down to the medical staff. And this is when the 4th option rolls in, and the one that I stand by the most. He's trying to take the heat off him. I want to be out there. I want to play. I want to be here for my teammates. But I can't decide that. There's people who get paid a lot of money. There's people who have their jobs for a reason, and they're going to be the ones to either say, 2 thumbs up, you got the green light, and let's see what you can do against Cleveland, or, hey, it's not worth it. We have a game against, I believe, the Orlando Magic on Friday night. Let's put more focus on that game instead. Get you some rest, a couple of days to recover, and then you can go full throttle again. Friday, that game is in Orlando. So maybe there's something to that. Ding, 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 ding. Leverage play for Embiid to get the fans, to get Shaq, to get a lot of these people publicly off his back for some of his previous statements. But that's not all Joel Embiid said. Then he goes into this point about how he was just trolling people when he discussed not playing back-to-backs. Dude, what are we doing here? First off, that troll sucked. You're not posting an Instagram picture of dunking on somebody and having fun with the caption. You're not talking about a soccer game when everyone else is talking about something else. So when you tweet something about the game, people react, but you know it's about a soccer game. We've seen him troll like that previously. This troll sucked. And it wasn't a troll. I think you're realizing the position you put yourself in, and now you're trying to backtrack it out. But now it's a troll. You're not playing back-to-backs and taking your health seriously and trying to make sure you're as healthy as humanly possible for a playoff run. All of that, everything that you thought was super important to put this team in the best position, all of that is now a troll? Read the room. Now's not the time to joke around with the fans. And quite frankly, it wasn't a joke. There's some version of backtracking going on. And that's the consensus I'm getting at. That's how I absorb everything that transpired after the loss against the Knicks. They're playing save the face. They're playing, some sort of let's put a mask over all of the things that have been super ugly in the public eye. Embiid was just joking about back-to-backs. He wants to play. It's on the medical staff, not him. There's a chance he could play back-to-backs. That's coming from the head coach afterwards. Like, what? And then Paul George, minute restriction. He can't go against Cleveland. What are we doing? What are we doing? There's no reason Paul George should be limited this much. There's no way. They really are pissing away 20 to 25 regular season games, and I promise you that is going to impact who you face in the playoffs. And I promise you that you valuing health at the end with PG and with Joel Embiid, it's not going to matter as much as you think it is if they're not playing the game and if they're not gelling. And if they're not having time to get used to who each other is on the floor and how to create a certain identity of a basketball team. It's never going to happen. And by the way, what are the odds the second Maxey, Embiid, and Paul George all get on the floor together that someone else doesn't miss time who starts? What if Oubre or Lowry or Martin or Eric Gordon or, someone who's got a pretty prominent role ends up getting banged up, and now maybe someone in your starting five who is a huge part of what you want to run offensively, that person misses time, so the big three's there, but now your important role guys aren't. This is a very intense, calculated risk, and I do not trust the people in power to execute it well enough because they are devaluing things that are extremely important to what builds character and what builds a championship caliber team. They're just hoping by the end they can escape the 82 games. Whatever happens, happens. Snap their fingers, and it all works collectively as a unit. And I just don't think that that's even possible. I don't think that's possible. And they think it's easier than it is. Listen, if you made it this far into the show, thank you all so much. If you're new here, you can hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and hit the thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate the support. And if you go to any of your favorite podcasting platforms, you could search Sports Talk with Broads, and that will obviously give you access to taking me on the road with you to your work or on your way home from work or on a nice long road trip, you name it. You could subscribe over there, leave a 5-star rating and a review. It goes so far with the algorithm, so I love you to death. And also, you can join the memberships here on YouTube for more Broads Media content. For a price of $4.99 a month, you get access to Coffee with Broads live streams, where 2 times a week, 8 times a month, we kick back on Monday and Thursday mornings at 11 a.m., and we just have a very casual live stream. We chat with one another. We have our coffee. It's super fun. You also get access to our Discord channel, so make sure you check that out. And the last thing I'm going to say before I get into more about Embiid's health is Garage Beer. DrinkGarageBeer.com. Don't worry about IPA. It's a light beer. It's the best light beer on the market. It's 1,000% quality. You do not want to miss out on the best beer to ever touch your lips. So DrinkGarageBeer.com. The information is down below. So, is Embiid still worried about his knee? Of course he is. But listen to this quote. This is him standing in front of his locker. I was a little timid when it came to attacking, but I expected it. I just knew that pushing off on the knee, that's the mental hurdle that I got to get to. I felt pretty good health-wise. I think it's just about trusting myself. That's Joel Embiid talking about the mental aspect of coming back from an injury. Now, here's what I feel about that. He had the surgery last year in the regular season. Since said surgery, playoff run against the Knicks, Olympics, and I won't forget, and I want to stress this enough, I heard Jay Wright on the afternoon show on WIP discuss the process of not just the Olympics and the grind of the legitimate tournament, but everything prior to get you ready for the Olympics and the camp that you go through. It's taxing. It's draining. It's a lot. So it's not just the basketball that's played when you look at the bracket trying to win a gold medal, but there's a lot before that these players go through that's not easy, especially right after an NBA season. It's gruesome. So he went through all of that. He went through the Olympics itself, had a little bit of wiggle room until the start of the NBA year, didn't participate until game 10 or so, and he's still worried about the knee and attacking with the knee after the surgery was that far back? Are we now in a position? And look, he's got a lot of info on where it's at. It's bone on bone. You don't know how you're going to feel every single day. There's no fixing it. This is life now. This is how it's going to be. You know, look, I'm not saying it's easy to go through. If it's bone on bone and that's the way his knee is structured now as a 7'2" man, I'm not saying it's easy, but it would change my opinion on where we are as a franchise if the reality is Joel Embiid is still concerned and still struggling and still doesn't know if he feels confident in his knee after all of that has already transpired since the surgery. That's a lot. Like if he had this thought after the surgery before the Knicks series, that makes sense to me. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. You know, I'm a little uncomfortable still. I just got to find my groove. All that's real. But after a playoff run, an Olympic journey, an Olympic the Olympics itself, and then now we're still going, I don't know how well I feel attacking with this and with the current state of my knee, then the knee might be to the point of no return, and we may know that, but it might be worse than we thought. Like if we think we can get an 80% Embiid, maybe we can only get a 55% Embiid. Maybe we can only get a 60% Embiid. He's going to shoot better than 2 for 11, okay? That's not the bar. He's going to have 40-point nights. He's going to have 35-point nights. He's going to have maybe even a 50-burger. I don't know what the consistency is going to look like. Is it as simple as get 5 or 6 games under his belt and then he takes off and goes on this crazy run of perfection and outstanding true percentage rate and just a dominant big man that we haven't seen score at the will that he scores at? Like maybe that's very true and very possible. There has been a track record shown that once Embiid does get a few games under his belt, he does seem to hit a different tier and a wave of Embiid starts to overpower a lot of guys on the defensive end. So I get that. I do. I'm not ruling that out. But for the first time with Embiid, I'm starting to wonder, how bad are we talking here? Where when you go in and fix it, is it not even getting to a point that is fixable to a certain percentage that we feel okay with? You know what I mean? Like he still can't attack. He's still trying to get over the mental hurdle. There's been so much basketball to get over that mental hurdle. The fact you're not over it yet means he probably knows it's so much worse. And if it's so much worse than ever before, even after surgery, what's the ceiling here? Can we ever reach that ultimate goal with him being this? And I'm not saying this meaning 2 for 11. I'm saying this meaning where his knee is. Oh, it's just disappointing. I was super excited to see if they can compete against the Cavs. Now it doesn't even matter, although I'm excited to watch McCain. McCain is no joke. All right, let's take Let's take calls here, shall we?
What's up, bro? It's 76ers for life. Win or lose, I'm 76ers for life. Oh, man, we just got smoked by the Knicks, and, this was Joel Embiid's first game back, and I understand that, but I got a question, man. When are we going to be allowed to hold Joel Embiid accountable, honestly? I mean, I know this is not going to be too popular with our fan base, but Joel Embiid has, in my opinion, never been held accountable. He needs to deliver. That's what I'm saying. He's never delivered. He's the only league MVP in league history who's never been out of the second round, okay? This guy played 39 games last year, and he hasn't given us a legitimate reason for not coming into training camp at least ready to get in shape, or coming to training camp this year ready to play. Failure after failure after failure, second round failure after failure after failure, and he's been a common denominator. Now, we scapegoated coaches and roster construction and other players, but he's been the common denominator. So, bros, when are we going to be allowed to, look at him as being the problem sometimes? I'm saying sometimes. Great player when he plays, but he only plays half of the time. Thanks.
Listen, I think it's a fair call. I really do. With the Embiid slander, this is where I am with it. It comes down to tone with me. You could be angry and really annoyed with Joel Embiid, and if you say it in a way that I feel is acceptable with tone, I get it. And that is a perfect example of, I get it. I really do. Then there's the Embiid people that he sucks, he's a bum, he's a pathetic loser, he's this, he's that, and it's like, I can live without that type of slander with him. He's not a bum, he's not a stiff, he's not the worst ever, he's not all of that. But are we now in a position as a fan base where we truly do need to analyze on a deeper level and really, really get to the bottom of this, because we are hitting our breaking point? And if there is a world where the Embiid experience runs a little bit shorter than we ever would have thought because they are just stuck and they can't get out of their own way, and forget contract for a second and extension and Paul George and his money and this and that, and I'm aware of all those details that make blowing it up difficult or whatever, but just, it's time now to answer your question. When can we hold Embiid accountable? When can we look at him and put the blame on him more intensely? When can we do all these things as a fan base when you really have to soul search? And when can Embiid be at the forefront of this more than he ever has before? Now, right now. Now's the time. Because I'm right there with you all. I can't give him free passes anymore. That, to me, against the Knicks, wasn't someone who was ramping up. I didn't see someone who was ramped up. They may have ramped up, air quotes, but they sure as hell went at 5%. That's an issue, especially if you're going to be the leader of the team, which he is the leader of the team when you're an MVP and you're the face of the franchise and all that. That comes with a lot of responsibilities. And I don't think he's living up to that end of the bargain. He's great when he's locked in. He's great when he can give you 40 in a closeout game, 50 in a playoff series, when he's got issues with his face, when he needs surgery and gets it and he's returning quickly. There's no doubt about it. When Embiid is playing his best basketball, he's one of the best basketball players in the entire league and on the planet. There's a lot of stuff surrounding Joel Embiid that isn't where it needs to be. And if those details aren't screwed in properly, we're never going to get to where we need to be. And we've seen Embiid enough to know that those details may never be screwed in now. And if that's the case, then we need to be having some serious conversations. So to answer your question, now. I think now is the time that things intensify massively. You better deliver. All this hoopla and all this crap on how they're supposed to be addressing this regular season. You better deliver and win a championship, because you're putting this fan base through hell. People are paying hard-earned money to go to this game against the Cavs, and they get spit in their own mouth from somebody else, all right? Someone else is just saying, hey, open up. And then go for a little hawk to her right in the mouth. Thanks for spending your money on the Sixers. There's Joshua Harris just spitting on everybody. No Paul George, no Embiid, no Maxey. Have fun tonight. Appreciate your $15 for each beer. Come on, man. You better win a championship. That's the only way all this is justified. And guess what? I am definitely not putting my money down on the 76ers winning a championship. They may not even get out of the first round, because I could totally see them having what should be a second round matchup being a first round matchup. And they haven't been able to show me that they could win a second round. So if that second round happens to be in the first round, and then what are the odds if they do happen to win a first round that's a second round matchup? That means they got to do it twice. And then that means they have to do it a third time to even get to the NBA Finals. And then, by the way, do it a fourth time to do the whole damn thing. This team going to be able to manage that? How disappointing. Unbelievable. All right, everybody. Appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Or this afternoon, I should say. I'm so used to recording at night post-game, but the Sixers piss me off so much that the game doesn't even matter anymore. It's unbelievable. McCain's going to drop 55, and there's going to be a hot topic, and something like that's going to happen. But anyway, appreciate it. Talk to you on the next one.